Then, on October 4th, 1957, the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, was launched. The public in the world was shocked. Media tried to explain satellites and spaceflight to readers in the Western countries. At that moment, Sternfeld's high-quality popular books became an excellent source explaining the basics of rocketry and spaceflight, orbital properties, satellite visibility from the ground, communications with satellites, and conditions in space such as vacuum and weightlessness. Moreover, these publications had a special credibility because they originated from the country that had been the first to launch a satellite. Sternfeld writings gained enormous popularity. In total, 39 countries published his books in 85 times and in 36 languages. In the Soviet Union alone, from 1949 to 1959, 600,000 copies were published in 14 languages. After the launch of Sputnik in 1957, there was a rush of translations of Soviet technical literature related to rocketry and spaceflight in the United States. And as you can see here on the right is shown a translation of Ary Sternfeld's book in 1958, done by the United States Air Force. In the middle there is a book titled Soviet Space Science. Again, these are writings by Ary Sternfeld. It appeared in 1959, and the foreword was written by Willy Ley, a prominent popular writer on space who fled the Nazi Germany in the late 1930s. And on the left is another book, Soviet Writings on Earth, Satellites and Space Travel. The first chapter in this book prominently shown next to that. This first chapter is written by Ary Sternfeld, so this was also again in 1959. A limited and belated recognition has come. In 1961, the University of Nancy bestowed on Sternfeld an honoris causa doctor degree. Well, he wasn't allowed to go to France, however, to accept the degree as well as to receive another international award in 1963. The Soviet citizens couldn't travel to the Western countries unless they were part of the very narrow class of nomenclatura or party apparatchiks. In 1965, the USSR Academy of Sciences awarded Sternfeld an honoris causa degree of Doctor of Technical Sciences. Well, with all this huge number of copies of his books translated and sold, one would think that he became rich. Well, it is a mistake. He didn't accumulate any fortune from royalties from his books. The Soviet Union did not participate in the international copyright agreements. People in foreign countries often connected a well-known name of Sternfeld with the space successes of the USSR. In reality, and ironically, he remained confined to his home office, and the Soviet state had never permitted him to contribute to the program. While among Soviet leading rocketeers and spacemen, Valentin Glushko seemed to be the only leader of the program who supported Sternfeld. At least he publicly recognized his contributions. The photo here shows Valentin Glushko congratulating Ary Sternfeld with his 60th birthday. It was May 1965. So Ary introduced the word cosmonautics. Any official recognitions? Well, everything seemed to be against him in the Soviet Union. It took a letter campaign by prominent rocketeers to include his name in the Great Soviet Encyclopedia, or to include the book about him that was published in 1987. In a few minutes, we'll talk about that, in the plans of the publishing house Nauka of the Academy of Sciences. So these small things required enormous effort to overcome. Ary Sternfeld passed away in 1980. Officials of the Soviet science establishment didn't react to the death of the space pioneer and didn't attend the burial ceremony. Valentin Glushko and the representatives of his Energomash did attend. Moscow authorities also refused to install a memorial plaque on his house after his death in 1980. a letter campaign to the wife of Mikhail Gorbachev, who was a patron saint of culture in the Gorbachev's Soviet Union, was needed to achieve that. On the left, one could see the tombstone at the Novodevichy Cemetery in Moscow, showing the transfer trajectory to reach a point near the central body. The inscription reads, Ary Sternfeld, pioneer of cosmonautics. Well, we should call this transfer Sternfeld transfer. Well, what's happening? Do we correct this injustice? In the Soviet Union, in Russia, a few things have changed. In the old Soviet Union, a book was published in 1987 by Prishepa and Dronova, Ary Sternfeld, a pioneer of cosmonautics. Ary Sternfeld, Pioneer Kosmonavtiki. It was 1987. As we already said, Valentin Glushko had contributed dramatically to have this book published. Otherwise, it was silence, silence, and silence. So you can see it on the left, the cover of this book. The Moscow Polytechnic Museum is a small exception. As a matter of fact, you can see a reconstructed home study in the center of this slide of Ary Sternfeld shown in the Polytechnic Museum. Actually, I'm standing next to that, and this photo is from 2006. Now, the director of the Polytechnic Museum, Dr. Gurgen Grigoryan, is a supporter of exhibiting the heritage of Ary Sternfeld. Below, at the bottom of the slide, you can see the cover of the conference proceedings held in the Polytechnic Museum in 2005. This was the event commemorating the 100th anniversary of the birthday of Ary Sternfeld. At the bottom right corner, there is the cover page of another book that appeared in the post-Soviet Russia. The author of the book is Naum Narovlansky. He is a veteran of Baikonur, and the book's title is The Navigator of Space Roads, Ary Sternfeld. It appeared in 2007, and a poor retired army officer, Narovlansky, paid largely for the publication of this book from his own pocket. These two men, Grigoryan and Narovlansky, did perhaps more than many in the present modern Russia to keep the memory of Sternfeld alive. There's also another very unusual development. There is a small Sternfeld's People's Museum of Cosmonautics in Pytalovo in the Pskov region. This museum is housed by a boarding school for deaf children. Two events commemorated Ary Sternfeld in the United States. On the right you see a most unusual brass plaque, 3 by 5 inches, commemorating 9 pioneers of spaceflight mechanics, including the name of Ary Sternfeld, and this plaque, small brass plaque, is attached to a spacecraft, the New Horizon mission. This is the NASA spacecraft that today is on the way to the most distant planet in the solar system, Pluto. And in addition, I published a book about two space pioneers, Robert Snoepelt-Rie and Ary Sternfeld. It was 2007. The book's title is From Astronautics to Cosmonautics, and there's also the website where you can get a large part of the book content. You can see that, and there's also some other information there. The website URL is astronauticsnow.com/astrocosmo. So in Poland, I think that we all have to congratulate CBK, PAN, Centrum Badań Kosmicznych, Polskiej Akademii Nauk, for organizing this conference on Ary Sternfeld, or Sternfeld, in Sieradz in September 2010. Znakomicie, thank you very much, It is a great accomplishment. And if you ever need to contact me, my affiliation and my email and web address is shown on the right. My presentation is largely based on my book that I published in 2007 about a Snorpel tree and Ary Sternfeld, and I would like to acknowledge help and contributions of several people that helped me in collecting the materials needed for the book and obviously for this presentation. They are all listed at the bottom of this page. Thank you very much. Dziękuję.